Hello, I'm Elizabeth Ann Stewart, a wedding officiant, and because you're watching this video, I assume that you and your partner are planning on getting married very soon, and that perhaps you too are looking for a wedding officiant, or at least a little help with your ceremony. So let me begin. In the first place, I really appreciate the business that you're dealing with right now. There is so much to take care of before a wedding, whether it's the bride's dress, or flowers, or the photographer, or what the bridesmaids are going to wear, what the flower girl is going to carry, how the ring bearer is going to be coaxed down the aisle. So many details, so much to plan, so much to pay for. And then there are the logistical details. For example, if you have family members who aren't speaking to one another, what do you do? If Uncle Harry no longer wants to speak to Aunt Matilda, how are you going to handle this? Or if your cousin Betsy is intent on bringing 3 sets of twins, how can you possibly dissuade her from doing so? So I'm aware there's a lot on your minds at the moment, and like many couples, you may not have given the ceremony too much thought. But this is a problem. A forgotten ceremony can often become a tragedy in the making. When you don't pay attention to the ceremony, it means that your officiant can pretty much do what he or she pleases with the ceremony, and it may not be to your liking. The language used may not fit your philosophy or your theology or your worldview. The sentiments expressed may be foreign to you or even offensive. Take, for example, the wedding officiant who, never having spoken to the bride and groom before, filled space by telling them how lucky they were, how blessed they were, that when they died they'd be able to share a grave together. Now, some people might have thought that was an attempt at humour, but it really wasn't, and neither the groom nor the bride happened to be very amused by this. There may have been 1 or 2 chuckles, but really it was a tragedy. You don't want a tragedy on your wedding day. You want a wedding ceremony that's going to reflect your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations. You want a dream wedding. You want the wedding that is going to be something that you can remember for all your days. And for this to happen, it has to be personalized. You, as a couple, need to make some decisions about the venue. Is it going to be a formal religious setting or somewhere informal? The type of venue will dictate the kind of ceremony, and the kind of ceremony in turn will make you more able to decide who you want to officiate. An officiant comfortable in a beach setting may not be comfortable in a cathedral, and conversely, somebody who is from a very rigid clerical background may not be comfortable marrying you in the middle of a roller rink. So choose your venue wisely, and then your celebrant will fall into place. The venue, as I said, will dictate the kind of ceremony. So you have to decide as a couple what kind of a ceremony you want. Low-key, flexible, very, very formal. What do your guests expect? What do your families expect? And what do you want? Those are all considerations to be taken seriously. Then comes the question of the officiant. If you're going to settle for a beach setting, you want to make sure that your celebrant, your presider, will be comfortable in any situation. I had a situation once myself where the groom's vows blew away, and the best man picked them up and put them in his pocket and didn't tell anyone that he had done so. So when it came time for the vow exchange, there were no vows, and I, as officiant, had to be very creative to smooth things over and assure the groom that yes, indeed, he could simply ad-lib and everything would be fine. Now, not every officiant may have been comfortable in that particular situation. Conversely, you may have an officiant who is not comfortable in a high church setting. So you have to know then the strengths and weaknesses of the person you're choosing and whether he or she is appropriate for the setting that you want. Most importantly, it's a really good idea if your officiant knows who you are as a couple. A family friend would be ideal. So if you have a friend who happens to be a minister or ordained or at least licensed in the state of Illinois or wherever else you happen to be living, that would be perfect, because that person will know you inside and out and will be able to help you add a personal element to the wedding ceremony itself. If you don't have a friend who is licensed to officiate, then at least select somebody who comes with excellent references. The venue you choose may have a list of preferred officiants, or it may be that you know someone who recently got married who could pass on the contact information for his or her presider. Whatever the case, don't have somebody show up on your special day never having spoken to you, never having contacted you, simply showing up to produce a canned ceremony that he or she has used time after time for the last 20 years. A good celebrant, a good officiant, is going to want your input. This officiant is going to ask you questions about yourselves, questions that then will be used in terms of framing the ceremony. He or she will want to know how long you've known each other, how you first met, what attracted you to one another, what your shared dreams are, what your goals are. And the ceremony this person will help you design will be based on your lives, your shared lives, and your comfort level. And so then it is really important to let your officiant know something about you. And if he or she produces a questionnaire, take it seriously. This is the material that the officiant will use to create a personalized address and also to personalize the other elements in your ceremony. With your officiant, make decisions regarding the flow of the ceremony. Who is going to give away whom? Are the bride's parents going to give her away, or perhaps just her dad? Are the groom's parents going to give him away, or perhaps he doesn't want to be given away, he's simply going to be waiting for his bride as she comes down the aisle, the traditional way? When the exchange of rings happens, for example, are there any special words that you want to be spoken? Very often I will remind the gathering that the ring is a symbol of eternal love, a symbol of the couple's love for each other. And if they come from a faith perspective, I might mention that the ring also symbolizes eternal love, God's love for the couple, as well as their love for God. But not everyone is comfortable with God language, and again, that is why it is so important for you to have a conversation with your officiant about the kind of language and symbolism used before the wedding. Once the wedding is in progress, it's obviously too late. With your officiant, decide what the vows are going to look like. Are you going to create your own vows, or are you going to use standard vows, repeating after the officiant your words of commitment to one another? Or do you want both? I've presided at some weddings where couples have stated their intentions to one another in a very frank, informal way, a very personal, loving way, and then have repeated after me standard vows. Are there going to be readings? And if so, what types of readings? Do you want scripture readings, or contemporary poetry, or perhaps a selection from the Prophet by Khalil Gibran, very popular at weddings? There are so many choices. Do not leave them up to the officiant, but instead be part of the planning process. Don't be afraid to have your own ideas. Make it your own. There are so many rituals to choose from. Perhaps you've seen rituals at other weddings, whether hand fasting, where the hand of bride and groom are tied together, or whether you're going to have a rose ceremony, perhaps first giving roses to your mothers, and then exchanging roses as your first gift to one another as a married couple. Or perhaps you're going to have the wonderful broom ceremony where you together, holding hands, jump over the broom, symbolizing you're jumping into a new life together, leaving behind all the dust and debris of the old. So many rituals. Another possibility, the lighting of the unity candle, or if you have a blended family, the blending of sands. And then of course there's the question of how are you going to be presented to the community once you've been pronounced man and wife. Are you going to be presented by your first names? Are you going to be presented as Mr. and Mrs.? What's your preference? In choosing an officiant, make sure that he or she is willing to go along with your beliefs, your plans, your hopes, and your designing process. Don't leave your ceremony to chance. Don't let your ceremony be something that is talked about as a horror story, as in the case of the bride and groom who were told to share their grave together in the future. You want a wedding ceremony that everyone will talk about because it is the most heartfelt, beautiful ceremony that they have ever been to. All those you are gathering on your special day aren't simply coming for a party. They're coming as witnesses of your commitment to one another